The Learning Bar was founded in 2011 by Dr. Doug Wilms, a leading researcher in social development. His work has helped to transform the lives of thousands of children. Alongside the team at the Learning Bar, he has dedicated his life to reducing vulnerability and improving equality and equity to give all children the opportunity to thrive. Hear more about his life and the influencing factors that have led to the development of the Educational Prosperity Framework, an assessment and intervention model.
In high school, I grew up in a single-parent family, and one of my neighbors was kind of a bit of a advocate for me, I guess, and asked if I wanted to work in the summer camp. So I worked in a summer camp called Camp Easter Seal, Watrous, Saskatchewan, and worked with kids with intellectual disabilities, kids with physical disabilities, and so on. And I ended up working there for 5 summers, actually. But it had a real indelible experience on my development at that time. So I did that all summer. I started in summer of grade 10. I went back, and then I got a part-time job as a psychiatric nurse's aide in this huge institution for people with intellectual disabilities. And that was it was really kind of quite traumatic in a way, because seeing the contrast between the summer camp and then this huge institution, some 1,500 residents there and just as many staff, it was like night and day. You know, in the summer camp we're having campfire songs and having fun with kids and going swimming and doing crafts and all of that. Whereas in the institution, it was just a big ward where you had 50 children, you know, in one part of the ward, and then they would be doing practically nothing and no programming. I've used the term warehouse. They just basically warehoused children and adults with intellectual disabilities. And so that was just a huge experience. I came home the first day, I was just crying. My mom didn't want me to go back. I said, no, I got to go back. You know, if there's one single thread throughout it all, it's inclusion, you know, inclusion and giving people a chance to thrive.
Dr. Wilms' work with data, policy, and research organizations has strongly influenced local and national educational policies throughout the world. His knowledge and that of our in-house researchers forms the foundation of the student assessments and survey solutions provided by the Learning Bar.
I remember when I started doing work with, say, the World Bank or OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. I guess, you know, as you start publishing papers and they ask you to do this or that, and in the case of our early years evaluation, it was the World Bank who asked me to develop a tool that could be used in India, Jordan, and Dominican Republic, and then the Canadian government asked me to develop the tool for them. The PISA study, I was at the Program for International Student Assessment. I'd already moved to New Brunswick by then, and I got a phone call saying, would you be part of the Australian team to help develop the questionnaires for PISA? And so I said, sure, and led the team that developed the first questionnaires. So our National Longitudinal Survey of Children and Youth, it started with children at birth, and we started with a cohort of children aged 0 to 11, and then we followed them step by step as they made their way along the life course. And you look at kids over the life course, there's always periods of vulnerability, things you don't expect, you know. So trying to get a handle on that, and then what kinds of policies and processes and interventions need to be in place to reduce vulnerability in the population. We did a lot of papers looking at some of those very early childhood outcomes, babies, you know, and then what things were important risk and protective factors at age 2 and age 3, till finally you get to age 5. What are the important factors as kids enter school and so on? And most of the, you know, and you follow them all the way through to adolescence, and you can see different kinds of how vulnerability expresses itself in different ways across the life course, and how children develop.
In 2017, Dr. Wilms released the Educational Prosperity Framework. The evaluation and intervention framework is unique as it explicitly links assessment to policy and practice.
So how does that relate to educational prosperity? Well, as I did work with PISA, the Program of International Student Assessment, some work with the Trends in International Math and Science Study, and there's another one of grade 4 reading skills called PEARLS. Countries have really bought into this notion of doing national assessments and doing international comparative assessments. And that's very good because the organizations doing them have very high standards for the quality of the tests that they use and so on. The problem, though, is they're infrequent. So in the case of PISA, it's only every 3 years. Some of these others are only every 4 or 5 years. They're sample-based. So with PISA, for example, you might have a sample of 5,000 students in a country, and only at one age 15, right? So that's one issue. The other issue is, and I noticed this a lot when I was doing the work in the National Longitudinal Survey, is the whole field was geared towards looking at risk and protective factors. What are the risk factors for children dropping out of school, for example? What are the protective factors? And a lot of times it would point back to family background, indicators of socioeconomic status, and so on. But there'd be this long laundry list of factors. And then I found, when I talked to ministers of education in different countries, I'd say, why did you get involved with PISA? And they said, well, we want to know what is it we can change in our high schools that'll bring about better results. They're really searching for the magic bullet. And so they're going to look down this long list of factors and say, oh, well, we're just not particularly good in teacher-student relations, or we're not particularly good on some other factor. But when you think about the reading scores of a 15-year-old adolescent, it isn't all happening just what's happening in that classroom in the last couple of years. It's everything that's happened since birth. So anyway, I became very interested in that. But from a policy point of view, you need to have ministries focus on a small number of crucial factors. They can't focus on this long list of factors. And part of the prosperity model is to have a set of crucial metrics that are in a sense universal. By universal, I mean something that all countries would value, like good reading achievement or good health and well-being of your children. So we developed a whole set of metrics across the lifespan over 6 stages. But then the drivers, rather than focusing on this long list of things, I just wanted 4 or 5 quintessential drivers. So these drivers are potent. They're potent in the sense that the literature has shown that they have strong effects on this set of outcomes. They're pervasive in the sense that they have an effect not only on school dropout, but also on math achievement, also on health and well-being. But they're also proximal, and the proximal part is important because there's nothing intervening between that factor and the outcome.
These crucial metrics are called prosperity outcomes. The drivers are focused on the support children need from family, institutional, and community factors that drive these outcomes. These are called the foundations for success. For children to develop to their full potential, all those caring for our children need to focus on strengthening each of the foundations for success.
We're really trying now then to bring our tools to bear right across that lifespan from, not from birth, but from conception all the way through to graduation from high school and even beyond. And saying how can we measure those things really well? Not just the outcomes, but also those foundations for success. And really trying to align that data with what policymakers are doing.
When policymakers and school communities come together, with the single aim of building strong foundations for the next generation of citizens, we will begin to see an education system that ensures quality, equality, and equity, giving all children the opportunity to thrive.